University, HAU, Hisar, and bachelor's from Rajasthan Agriculture University, Bikaner, and he has joined ICAR in 2016. His research interest includes markets, trades, and institution, and he's involved in projects related to price analysis, agricultural commodities, value chains, outlook models for agricultural commodities at NIAP. So he's very hardworking and sincere faculty here. He has recently done one study on fertilizers policy. So that's why we have requested him to share his insights on fertilizer policy to the participant here. So Abhimanyu ji, please proceed for your lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Dilip ji, I am audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today that topic is on fertilizer policy. And in this lecture, I will be covering overview of fertilizer sector in India. And then I will be covering how the fertilizer policy in India has evolved over the period of time. So as we all know that land and water resources are limited. If we want to feed our increasing population, then only solution we have that we have to increase productivity of our agricultural land in a sustainable and cost-effective manner. So in this direction, fertilizer has played a critical role in enhancing crop productivity.
सर थोड़ा आवाज थोड़ा कम आ रही है, मतलब स्लो है आवाज, थोड़ा लाउड.
और अभी कैसा आ रहा है दिलीप जी?
हाँ, अब सही है सर.
ठीक है. So that fertilizer has played important role in enhancing our crop productivity, and we can see that in 51, 52 to till now, our food grain production has increased more than 5.5 times. So with high yielding varieties and irrigation, the fertilizer has helped us to achieve our food security. If we see the total consumption of NPK in the countries, so in the year 51 and 52, if we see, it was only 0.07 million ton. But there was a major thrust in consumption of nutrients in Green Revolution period, and it increased to 2.67 million ton in the year 1971 and 72. So it's showing that fertilizer has played important role in achieving our green revolution and making us self-sufficient in our food requirement. But now Indian agriculture, in recent time, we are using around 28 million ton of NPKs. And if we see state-wise per hectare consumption of NPK, so our national average is 134 kilogram per hectare, and Telangana, Bihar, Punjab, they are the state we are consuming more of these NPKs per unit of area as compared to Assam and Rajasthan. That may be due to Punjab, they are intensive agriculture. But in case of Bihar, there are reports that as fertilizer is subsidized in India, so it percolate to our neighboring country, Nepal border. So that may be the reason for higher per unit consumption of NPKs. And it's equally important to see ourselves in global framework. So in global framework, India is consuming 144 kg per hectare that NPKs, and we are the third largest consumer of NPKs in 1 hectare per unit area, and highest consumer is Egypt, then followed by Bangladesh. Along with the total gross consumption of nutrients in agriculture, it is equally important to see the proportion of NPK is being consumed in Indian agriculture. The balanced use of nutrients is crucial to maintain soil health, soil fertility, and productivity. So, for higher productivity or to maintain soil health, ideal recommended NPK ratio is 2:1. So how much nitrogen and phosphorus is used in comparison to potash? So now if we see the NPK ratio in 2018-19, it is 6.6, 2.6 and 1, which is deviated from the recommended ratio. If we look NPK use ratio in the country for last decade, it was very much closer to recommended ratio during 2009 and 10 when it was 4.3, 2 and 1. And only if we see P and K, so they are more or less in proportion that we can see in this table, that is 2:1. Only this discrepancy in nitrogen use. That may be due to that nitrogen prices, urea prices are less as compared to P and K prices. So if we see state-wise that consumption of NPK fertilizers in India, so we will observe from this figure that in Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, they are consuming more of nitrogenous fertilizer, whereas in Karnataka and Maharashtra, there is more equal, we can say more or less equal distribution of NPK. So it's depend upon climatic condition, soil type, soil fertility and other factors. And if we see our fertilizer production scenario in the country, so how much we are producing and how much we are dependent on international market for our requirement. So if we see in 2001 and 2, our domestic production of nitrogen was around 10 or 11 million ton. And in 2017-18, it has increased to 13.5 million ton. So around 25% production of N fertilizer has increased in country during 17 year period. Whereas during the same period, if we see the import of nitrogenous fertilizer in country, so in 2001 and 2, it was 0.28 million ton only. And now we are importing around 3.5 to 4 million ton. So our import has increased by more than 13 times. If we see case of the phosphate fertilizers, so our domestic production in 2001 and 2 was 3 or we can say around 4 million ton. So now we are producing around 5 million tons. So it's we can say our production has increased by 20%. Whereas if see the import of this phosphate fertilizers, So this has increased from 0.5 million ton to 2 million ton. So nearly 4 times our import has increased. Or in case of potash fertilizer, we don't have any domestic sources for or sources or reserves for potash. So whatever our requirement, we are importing from other country, and import of potash was 1.7 million ton, which has increased now to 3 million ton, nearly we can say doubled. And if we see the share, how much we are producing domestically and how much we are importing from the international market. In case of N fertilizer, that 79% of our requirement is met by domestic production and 21% is we are importing from other countries. In case of phosphate fertilizer, 70% of requirement is produced domestically and 30% is being met by international market. And in case of potash, as we know, we don't have any reserves in India. So all 100% requirement is being met by import. If we this was our national scenario. So it's as we are dominant player in international market, or we are highly dependent, we can say, in international market for our P&K requirement. So it is very important to know global fertilizer production and consumption scenario. So world production of nitrogen fertilizer is around 120 million ton, and India is producing 13.38 million ton. So we are producing around 11% of world total production, and we are the second largest producer after China. If we see the production of phosphate, so we are contributing around 4.5 million ton to global production of phosphatic fertilizers. That is around 8% of global supply of phosphate. And we are the third largest producer after China and USA in phosphatic fertilizers. India hold important place in world market for fertilizer. So if we see the consumption, so India is second largest consumer of nitrogen fertilizers after China. So global consumption is around 110 million ton, and we are consuming around 16.5 million ton. So 15% of global consumption is being done by the Indian agriculture. And we are also second largest consumer of phosphate in the world after China, and we consume around 7 million ton. That is also comes around 15% of global consumption. So these show how much important we are in the international market. And if we see the that phosphate, as we know, we import from other countries, so still we are the fourth largest consumer of potash in the world after China, Brazil and USA, and we account for 7%, that is significant amount of global consumption of potash. So that that second biggest producer of nitrogen fertilizer and third largest producer of phosphatic fertilizer, this shows significant position of India in the global fertilizer production. Still, all our production goes for domestic consumption. Besides, we also import fertilizers from international market to meet the gap in our domestic requirement and supply. As we depend on international market, so there is always fear of volatility in the prices. So we are prone to international fluctuation. If we see the price trend, as this is also important to observe the period how prices and subsidies has behaved in India. So after introduction of this nutrient-based scheme in 2010, the prices of P and K gone up, and in last decade the prices of urea are controlled, so it are same at same level. So these prices of P and K increased, and we in 2016 and 17 and 17-8 they showed declining trend due to international prices. But in 2017-18 to 18-19, price has increased more than 20% in case of potash and phosphatic fertilizers. So this show that how our price sensitive to fluctuation in international prices of fertilizers. So urea is protected, but this potash and phosphatic fertilizer are prone to international fluctuation. So this can be observed from this graph, and recently also went very high prices for this potash and phosphatic fertilizers. If we central subsidy of fertilizers, so it is continuously increasing, and now it's around 1 lakh crores. And after NBS in 2009-10, the subsidy burden of this potash and phosphatic fertilizer decline, but still it is we can say second highest subsidy after food subsidy that government is paying. And if we see the composition, that composition, how much subsidy is going for nitrogen fertilizer, that is urea, and how much is going for P and K fertilizer. So that 64% of subsidy that is going for nitrogenous fertilizer, and only 36% of total amount is going for P and K fertilizers. So this again, and that nitrogen fertilizer are more subsidized and lower price. So farmer tend to use more of nitrogenous fertilizer as compared to P and K. So it give to imbalance use of these fertilizers. And other important thing that for production of fertilizers, we need that raw material. And this natural gas is one of that important feedstock for this urea production. Rock phosphate is being used for production of phosphatic fertilizers, and potash that is used for potash fertilizers. So if we see the top 5 countries in natural gas production, so they are USA, Russia, Iran, Qatar, and Canada. They attribute around 54% of total global production. In case of rock phosphate, that 74% of supply or reserves, we can say reserves, are with Western Saharan country, that is Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. In these 3 countries, 74% are reserved. Reserves of rock phosphate are in these 3 countries. If we see the top 3 producer of phosphoric acid, that is also intermediate product as well as that input for manufacturing phosphatic fertilizer. So top 3 producers are China, US, and Morocco, and they have 63% of global production capacity. In case of potash, 67% of potash reserved are in 3 countries, that is Russia, Canada, and Belarus. Now, if we go to our national scenario, first we see the production of natural gas from our Indian basins, gas basin. So after 2010-11 is declining. Production of natural gas in India is declining, and for fertilizer it was around more than 50,000 million cubic meter, and now is uh, less than around, now it's 32 million metric ton. Sorry, not ton, it's metric meter, cubic metric meter. And for consumption, that offtake for fertilizer, that is increasing, because now to- 32 urea plant in country, and 31 are on natural natural gas based, only one is based on naphtha. So we are not able to that our production is declining. So we are dependent on international market for gas requirement. So that imported gas is costlier than domestic. So that also raises the our cost of production of urea fertilizer. If we see the this production and consumption of phosphoric acid, so production is our hovering around 1 to 2 million tons, whereas our requirement is around 4.5 million ton. So this gap in our demand and supply is being met by import of phosphoric acid from other countries, and we are importing around 2.7 million tons of phosphoric acid annually to meet this gap. If we see the status of rock phosphate in India, we have reserve of rock phosphate in India, but the reserve are of 312 million ton. But issue is that only 8% of our total reserve are suitable for this fertilizer use. We can say they are only fertilizer grade. So again, around 7.5 million ton rock phosphate we are importing from other country, whereas our this domestic production is only 1.3 million ton, and also fluctuate year to year. So now we are coming into that how our fertilizer policy and what are main we can say objective of this policy in India. So these are the major objectives, that to sustain agriculture growth, so we can maintain our growth of Indian agriculture, to ensure adequate availability of right quality of fertilizer at right time at right price to the farmer. So farmer can get fertilizer at appropriate time at suitable or affordable prices. And along with these two objectives, this policy also focus on that application of nutrients should be balanced. So they always try to promote balanced use of nutrients, and to make distribution of fertilizer across the country unbiased. So all the states have equal access to the fertilizer. All the blocks have the access to the fertilizers. So we can categorize fertilizer policy in three groups. The policies which are dealing with prices and subsidies. The policies which are related to marketing and distribution of fertilizer, and policies which relate to production and import policies. So that first categorization that we did, pricing and subsidy policy. Dr. Sangeeta, kindly mute yourself. Dr. Sangeeta. So first categorization we have done, that is pricing and subsidy related policy. So in 1976, there was first subsidy was introduced for the fertilizers. Prior to that, there was no subsidies for the fertilizer, and it was a fixed subsidy. Then year 1977, the scheme, retention price scheme, was introduced. And in 1991, during liberalization, the prices of that P and K fertilizer were decontrolled. And in 2003, government introduced new pricing scheme. And in the year 2010, nutrient-based subsidy scheme was launched. So mainly that our policy is focus was, or we can say focus has been on these primary nutrient, or we call them macronutrient like NPKs. So the government is regulating the sale price and quality of fertilizers. So this fixed subsidy was introduced in 1976 because due to oil crisis or cartelization by the oil producing countries in that period, fertilizers and raw material price increased very high in the international market. So government introduced this fixed subsidy of rupees 1250 per ton of for these phosphatic fertilizers. So then government introduced this retention price scheme. This scheme was introduced, and it was up to it started in 77 and continued up to 2003. So initially it was introduced for nitrogenous fertilizers, and later it was extended to phosphatic and potassic potassic fertilizers. So this committee was headed by this Marathe committee, and in this scheme, the difference between retention price. So retention price was cost of production as assessed by the government plus 12% post-tax return on net worth. So this was the retention price and statutory notified sale price. So this difference of retention price and the selling price. The retention price was also assessed by the government, and selling price was also notified by the government. And whatever the difference, that was paid as subsidy. So it resulted in increase in domestic capacity and production because it was lucrative, and consumption. This also increased consumption of fertilizer. The prices came down due to subsidy. Prices were came down, so use of fertilizer increased during this period, and which also led to increase in production, and this helped a lot to increase our food grain production. But in 90s, there was huge this subsidy burden on government. This led to increase in fiscal deficit. So in 1991, a joint parliamentary committee was appointed to review the fertilizer pricing. So this committee didn't favor total decontrolling of fertilizer, but recommended the decontrol of import-based phosphatic and potassic fertilizers. So this JPC was headed by Shri P.R. Bhosle to review this fertilizer process, and this recommended only decontrol of P and K fertilizer. Then in 2003, new pricing scheme was introduced, and this committee was headed by Professor C.H. Hanumanta Rao, and aim of this scheme was to bring more transparency and uniformity and increase urea production in the country. So this scheme was started in the year 2003. So this scheme was having three phases. It's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So it was in phase 1, it's a group-based subsidy that they were grouped plants according to their feedstock, whether they are using natural gas or naphtha. In phase 2, the focus was given on non-gas based plant, and or which are able to switch over to gas based plant. And in phase 3 was for 2006 to 10. In this phase, incentive was given for additional production. If any plant is producing more than its installed capacity, they were given incentive. So that domestic supply of this our fertilizer can be increased, and this policy also promote the use of natural gas that is less costlier as compared to naphtha. So in the year 2010, so if we see the effect of that previous scheme, that new pricing scheme NPS, that subsidy burden of government increased if during 2005-6 to 2010 increased by 500%, or we can say increased by 5 times. And that increase in burden was mainly due to increase in prices in the international market. 94% increase in burden was due to increase in prices in the international market. Only 6% was that increase in subsidy amount was due to that use of fertilizer increase in the country. So main objective of this policy was to ensure balanced use of fertilizer, in that as usual improve agriculture productivity, to ensure food security, and fixed rate of subsidy was announced on annual basis for nutrients NP, K and S. So now under this 22 grades of P and K fertilizer and 16 grade of NPKS complex fertilizers are covered. Excuse me. So in this scheme, the manufacturer and markets are allowed to fix the maximum retail price at a reasonable level. So this ensured the balanced use of fertilizer that improve agriculture productivity, promoting the growth of indigenous fertilizer industries. So there was always focus to increase our domestic production of fertilizers, because otherwise we are prone to international price fluctuations. So after this, So every we say after a particular period of time, they announce prices per kg subsidy rate for this P, K, and S, all these. So for the period 1st October 2021 to 31st March 22, these are the prices for NPK and S. So these are proposed by Department of Fertilizer, and but then is finally approved by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. So now we are coming to second categorization, that is policies for marketing and distribution. So in 57, there's fertilizer control order was brought under Essential Commodity Act to regulate the this fertilizers distribution, and in 66 liberalization of fertilizer marketing, and 73 again this fertilizer movement control order was implemented, and in 1980 this block delivery scheme was introduced. So this fertilizer control order was brought under this Essential Commodity Act to regulate sale, price, and quality of fertilizer. So this control order made compulsory registration of fertilizer manufacturers, importers, and dealers, and specification of all fertilizers, whether they are manufactured in country or being imported, were defined, and total 74 fertilizer quality control laboratory were established in the country. Then the Shivaraman Committee in 66 recommended for liberalization of fertilizer marketing. So they gave freedom to this manufacturing company to market up to 50% of their production. And then complete freedom was given for manufacturing important was given, that they can sell to anybody. Then fertilizer movement control order was implemented in the year 1973. This was actually brought in because of that fertilizer shortage occurred in 73. That was the period for this petroleum crisis that's resulted into shortage of fertilizers, and interstate movement kept under this control order. Interstate movement was kept under government control, and provision of export of fertilizer was placed. Then in 1980 this block delivery scheme was introduced. So main that aim or purpose of this scheme was to promote use of fertilizers in remote area. Under this scheme, it was assured that fertilizer should be available in at least 1 or 2 places in each block, so that remote area and the farmers, they can also get fertilizer in their nearby places. So the third categorization that we have kept policies for production and import. In 2009, then this production and availability of fortified and coated fertilizers. And in 2012, new investment policy was brought. In 2015, neem coated urea policy, and 2015 again new urea policy was brought. And in this 2009, production and availability of fertilizer and coated fertilizer. So this was brought in to promote use of secondary and micronutrient and to improve fertilizer use efficiency. So it was focus was given on to fortification with other micronutrient, and government allowed fortification and coating of fertilizer specified in fertilizer control order up to 20% of their production. So they given up that freedom to the manufacturer that 20% of their production can be fortified or coated fertilizers. And this scheme also allowed that they can charge 5% that extra price for this fortification above their maximum retail price. So in 2012, the new investment policy was implemented, and again it was amended in 2014, and it aimed at facilitating fresh investment in urea industry to ensure self-sufficiency in urea sector. Under this policy, is floor and ceiling price on amount payable to urea unit is calculated based on delivered gas price. So they divided this already that urea plants in different category, and their eligibility for their modernization, this much amount they will be eligible. Then in 2015, and this new coated urea policy was introduced. So it was mandatory for all indigenous producer. So it was initially it was for their 75% of their production, but later it made them up to 100%. So mainly this was to increase that nitrogen use efficiency, and also diversion of urea to for the industrial use. So this neem coated urea, they have benefit like that is released gradually, so time will extend to uptake nutrient by the plant, and also it have this insecticidal property, and it will prevent diversion of one urea to industrial. So again, there was new urea policy was introduced in 2015. Under this policy, two provisions were made. That first was uniform price of natural gas. At that time, there was 25 gas-based unit. So all plant will get gas at the same price. And these 25 gas-based unit were divided into 3 groups based on their energy consumption for 3 years. And objective was to maximize indigenous urea production, that if the unit get this natural gas at the same price, so this will give a boost for indigenous production, promote energy efficiency in urea production. Actually, they categorize units according to their this energy consumption, and also help to rationalize subsidy burden on government. So along with these production and category of policies, joint venture is the other important strategy used by Indian companies to assess raw material, and as well as finished product with long-term buyback agreement to ensure supply of fertilizers and input to our indigenous industry. So now that 5 overseas joint venture are actually they are working. So 4 of these projects are producing phosphoric acid. These are in Senegal, Morocco, Tunisia, and Jordan. And 1 our joint venture is Oman, that is producing urea. So actually we are prone to international fluctuation or international price volatility in fertilizer prices because we are dependent on international market, and we have analyzed this CV for price volatility. So in different period, this period was divided in four four period, and it was observed that urea which is coming to country through these joint venture, and another if we are importing directly. So during 2001 and 2011, this coefficient of variation was only 15%. So it helped to this reduce fluctuation in our prices, and whereas it was 3 times more if we directly importing this urea. And during second period, it was around 17.5% CV, but in case of direct, then it was 30%. So these joint venture help us to ensure our uninterrupted supply, as well as also help to reduce our kept us protected from international fluctuation in the fertilizer prices. So this major things related to this price fertilizer policy I have covered. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Abhimanyu. Let us see if some questions are there. People in the panelist, they can ask questions directly also or write in QA. So it seems everything is crystal clear. So there are no questions, Dr. Abhimanyu.
Hello. Yes, madam. Can I ask,
Okay.
madam?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for delivering a very nice lecture on this very important area, that is the fertilizer. Sir, as you said that that is the NPK, that is the ideal ratio, that is a 2:2, 2:1. And you also mentioned that all India in table, that is the all India consumption of NPK, where that among the NPK, that N is somewhat about that is the use above 6.0, I think. So when we say or we compare to this ideal ratio 2:2, 2:1, and whatever the subsidy in the form of the fertilizer in case of like the Indian that we are having, so that urea subsidy, does it have negative impact? Because when we look to the ideal ratio,
Yes, yes.
1 year.
It is
Again, sir, just one minute. I will add, sir, one point, sir, that if you see again recent budget also, I think comparing to the previous year budget, 21-22, also this year for the urea, the subsidy are also, I think, reduced. I think somewhat 15,000, some kind of the thing. Yeah, so can we say that it is having a negative impact, fertilizer subsidy? This is my thought, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, it is true that urea is highly subsidized as compared to P and K fertilizers. That's why it's imbalancing our that we can say ideal fertilizer use, that farmer are using more and more urea fertilizer. And now government is also facing this problem, that this fertilizers burden, subsidy burden has increased very high. So now they are bringing this nano fertilizer can help to maintain that level of production, also help to reduce our subsidy burden. Actually, we are only that this nitrogen use efficiency around 30% only. So now that they are focusing, that can be increased with these nano fertilizers.
Thank you.
Sir, good afternoon. Sir, may I know, sir, actually nano fertilizer is released a few like maybe 2020 or 21. So my query is that what is the policy for the private dealers? Means whether it is or then when it will be available for the like farmers normally directly went to go to the private dealers. So so when it will be available for the business people like the private registered dealers, licensed dealers, sir? And what is the policy for that? Like as still it is not available in the market. So at where when it may be available or that one surrounded.
This nano fertilizer, that urea, nano urea is available. It's marketed by
Ah.
IFFCO. And
Which
what they are doing, that if you are taking
सी
one
class?
bag of urea,
हाँ
because this season this
नहीं,
urea
class
is
से
on
चल रहे
short
हैं।
supply
हाँ,
due to high the international prices, and now they are making it that mandatory. Okay, we will give you one bag and you should take 1 kg of this nano urea packing. So they are trying to popularize among the farmer, or that or private dealer. I'm not sure what policy is now there, but IFFCO is giving to the farmers for this wheat season. They are distributing along with this normal urea fertilizer bags. So they are trying that at least 50% you give by this normal urea, and 50% requirement can be met by this nano urea.
Thank you, sir.
There is one question, Abhimanyu, in chat box. Just go through the chat box, please.
Okay, and they asked the government focus on natural farming, how it impact on fertilizer policy.
This is also there, and both questions are similar only. One in Q&A also.
So this natural farming, if really implemented in the country, then definitely that portion we will be able to save. That quantity of fertilizer we will be able to save. So definitely it will impact our this fertilizer subsidy. If we get our 20% area out of this chemical farming to natural farming, so sure that our requirement will be 20% less for fertilizer.
Okay. Then similar question in chat box also. Given that central and state governments are promoting natural farming, what do you think is the future of chemical farming in India? I think it is out of the scope.
Yeah. Yes, government is trying, and state government and central government, they are promoting this. If if farmer adopt this, then definitely it will help to reduce our this subsidy burden. But now we can't say whether farmer will adopt or not. That we'll see.
Okay. So thank you very much, Dr. Abhimanyu. I don't think there are any. Thanks again. Our next speaker has also joined. So
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah, you may like to attend the next lecture by Dr. Vinay Sehgal.
Okay, ma'am.
You feel so. So Dr. Vinay Sehgal is there. He seems to be there, maybe.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Okay, okay. Since we could not see you, you can, if video is available, you can even switch on the video. So yes, now we can see you. And coordinator, like you can give the screen sharing option also. Thank you very much for joining very timely. And let me just briefly tell you about this training. Basically, this training is organized under SC sub plan, and More than 900 people applied for this, but because of our limitation of technology and all, presently nearly 117, they are attending the training. Some do have network issues and all, so that's why the number drops sometime. So, and now like I would just briefly, in fact, it's very inspiring CV of Dr. Vinay Sehgal. So I will just read it for the benefit of our participant. So Professor Sehgal has 30 years of professional experience in the field of agriculture research and 17 years of postgraduate level of teaching. He is presently professor in agriculture physics division and principal scientist for agrometeorology of ICR IRI. His current research areas, they may be little difficult to understand for social scientists, are surface energy balance of crops and monitoring residue burning and modeling of pollution, so which is today's topic also, drought monitoring, climate change and vulnerability, water use by crops, crop yield forecasting and crop insurance. He started his career in 91 as a scientist in ISRO, and he successfully carried out many national level projects on use of satellite images for crop monitoring and yield forecasting. Later in 2003, he returned back to ICR IRI as a senior scientist and is still continuing there. In between, he was on deputation as a professor and head at National Institute of Disaster Management and led a team of faculty on training and research on meteorological, hydrological, and agricultural disasters. He has significantly contributed in special crop yield mapping and forecasting and demonstrated linking of satellite inputs with crop simulation models. He also established ICR's first satellite ground station at IRI. His lab provides the crop residue burning reports using remote Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. He has published 137 research papers and delivered 142 technical presentations in international and national symposia. And he is a life member of 6 professional societies and guided 4 masters and 4 PhD students. More details you can have at researchgate.net. Like it's very aspiring profile. At least I am inspired to work in the field. So thank you very much, Dr. Sehgal, for joining us on this platform. I know you are very busy, and like he's my old colleague when I studied at IRI, and I think it is because of that he sometimes finds time even when he doesn't have that much time. Thank you very much for that too.
Not only colleague, we were classmates.
Yes, classmates.
Yeah.
So thank you. Dr. Sehgal, now like you can proceed for your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you very much. You can like we close at 5:30, so you can proceed for your lecture as per your this thing at the most 5:30. You can.
5:30 is 2 hours, but I
yes.
think maybe 1 hour 15 minutes, 1 hour 30 minutes.
Okay, fine. That is fine. They will be happy.
And more than that, it all depends on how much responsive the audience.
How much interaction they do. That is fine. So now over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rajni. A very good afternoon to all the participants, and I am thankful to the organizers for the invite to be with this August gathering of participants. By the time I share my screen, I'll tell you that Rajni and I both were master student together. So Dr. Rajni minor subject was agricultural physics and my minor subject was computer science. So that is how we were together. We studied courses together. And since then we know each other. Of course, I had moved out of ICR I was at Ahmedabad, again came back to IRI, then again went out, and so on and so forth. Anyway, today I'm going to talk on a topic of interest and using some of the latest technologies like satellite remote sensing. And because this training program is social sciences, but now a lot of data comes from many scientific instruments, and a lot of remote sensing data is also being used by the social scientists. So any kind of observations which provides you evidence, it helps in your policy formation, evaluation of your actions, and so on and so forth. So sometimes the presentation may appear too technical, but you can stop me at any point of time. And let us make this more of a interactive than a monologue that I keep on speaking for 1 hour and then we say goodbye. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. And I hope so everybody is comfortable in English.
Yes, I think they all are comfortable because we are having all sessions in English, and no one has complained or told anything about the language.
Okay. Thank you. So today we are going to talk of monitoring crop residue burning in India using satellite remote sensing. What are the status and what are the challenges? And I am Vinay Sehgal, and I run a lab called CREAMS Lab of IRI, Consortium for Research on Agro-Ecosystem Monitoring and Modeling from Space. So that is the full form of CREAMS, and we have a rudimentary website also, but it do provide a lot of information. So this is creams.ira.res.in is the website where we put the outputs of our whatever analysis we do. So coming to that, whenever, especially those who are staying in Northwest India, in National Capital Region, Delhi and around, every October, November, and it continues December, January also, the issue of decrease in air quality, leading to a lot of health issues, leading to a lot of days when the visibility is low, that may lead to some road accidents, flights get delayed. So one of the reasons which is being attributed to that poor air quality, like here if you see past November, December, we are having most of the polluted cities in all across India. Even this has continued till January. I remember one of my friend, he is in Toronto, Canada, and he sent his air quality index value 3 when the Delhi air quality index value was 396. So he sent me 2 comparisons, and he keeps on insisting that why you are still keep staying in Delhi. Move out, come to Canada, immigrate to Canada. So one of his reason for that was that, you see, this is the air quality 3 versus 396, because air quality anywhere above 100, if air quality index value goes above 100, it is problematic for the health. So we were at 4 times of that, and many times it goes even above 600, 700. So one of the reasons which is attributed to that is the crop residue burning in the neighboring state, especially that of paddy in Haryana, Punjab, and UP. And you know that crop residue burning it emits pollutants which leads to smog and haze. It may cause health issues like chronic health and lung diseases, but besides that, it also causes decline in soil fertility, loss of soil biodiversity, the microbes which are there in the soil. Organic carbon is also lost, that whatever carbon biomass which had to go into the soil, that is lost as CO2. And this whole thing appears to be that we are undertaking an activity, we means the farmers are undertaking an activity which has overall all kind of negative impacts. There is not a single positive impact of crop residue burning. But still, this is a practice which is practiced, adopted by a large number of farmers. And for your information, it is not a problem related to Haryana, Punjab, UP. The high technology, high input mechanized agriculture, but it is being followed in even in rain-fed systems. So within this context, we are going to talk of that one issue which people keep asking, that why, because this crop residue burning problem has become a problem since something like 1980s or so, when the more and more mechanization was being adopted in rice wheat system. So it started with that. Now sugarcane, maize, soybean, all their residues are burnt. But why is it that this is a recent problem and why it has not been there earlier? I feel one of the reason is that in 60s, when we were what we call as port to mouth, when we were having real issues of availability of food for the masses, when India used to receive food grains under PL 480 scheme from Australia, US, and it used to be distributed to the masses through the public distribution system. We had ushered into green revolution, and our always the aim has been to increase the productivity of the crops, whether through resources, whether by doing breeding or doing post-harvest management. So we want to improve on the productivity. And if you see, overall since 60s and 70s to current, we have nearly doubled the productivity of most of the crops. Especially the cereals, if we see, there has been tremendous improvement. But over the time, we have forgotten that a plant is a biological system. If you are going to increase the economic yield, what is going to happen to the biomass? That also has to increase, and it is increasing. But we have never thought of what to do with that biomass. And that increase in biomass for farmers has become a problem of its disposal, because everything he cannot use it for as a fodder for his animals, including now animals are reducing or they are getting more corporatized. And he cannot, and moreover, it is that he cannot leave it in the field because he has to take 2 to 3 crops. So he has to clear the field. So this is one of the biggest problems that we estimated that in India, we actually did a study for TIFAC, Department of Science and Technology, that how much is the total amount of dry biomass, which is being produced in India from major crops. And that is approximately 682.6 million tons of dry biomass, which we produce annually. So it is nearly more than double of what total food grains we produced. And we also estimated that out of that, how much is the surplus in the sense which is currently being not used at all for any purpose, whether for fodder, for poultry, for incorporation, for fuel, for industry or anything. So we estimated that it is nearly 178.74, which is something around 27% of the total dry biomass. Dry biomass means at moisture percent 0. So keep in mind, when we talk of 300 million tons of food grain, that is at 10 to 12% moisture. So we are talking of 682 million ton or 178 million ton when the moisture is 0. So it means it is more weight. And out of that, actually 72% of this surplus is coming during Kharif season. So that is why there is more burning of Kharif crop residues or at the end of Kharif crop season, harvesting season, and 27% comes during the Rabi season. And if you see the major crops which are contributing that to this dry biomass production, so rice produces nearly 33% and wheat produces 21%. So combined rice and wheat produce nearly more than half of the total dry biomass. And after that, 17% is sugarcane, followed by 10% cotton, then is 4% soybean and 4% gram and 4% maize. And then we have groundnut 2% and pigeon pea 1%. In between, rapeseed mustard also produces 3%. So that is the kind of distribution Even castor produces something like 1% of biomass. So oilseed food grain crops here you see. So, and you see more than 50% problem lies from the biomass of rice and wheat itself, followed by sugarcane. And this is how the distribution of what is the annual total dry biomass district-wise generated and where is the surplus biomass. You see, there is a lot of surplus in I can use this laser pointer. Yeah, there is a lot of surpluses here also in these dryland areas. Of course, there is a lot of surplus in Haryana, Punjab, UP, but it is there here also. It is there in this dryland rainfed region of Saurashtra also. So that is mostly coming from here. It is coming from sugar, from groundnut. So this is the context that you have been increasing the productivity of crops. Your economic yield is improving, but you have never thought of what is going to happen to the crop residue, because ultimately it is a biological system. The harvest index, which is the ratio of economic yield to the total biomass, that is more or less conservative in a plant system. So this is, if you see in Punjab itself, 30 million tons of dry biomass is produced in Kharif, and out of that, nearly 71% is surplus. They have no use, so that is why the farmers go for a lot of burning. And of course, for wheat also, nearly 25.6 million tons is produced, but nearly 37% is only surplus. So overall, nearly 55-56% of total dry biomass which is generated in Punjab is surplus. Same is situation in Haryana also. Just to tell you that the central government initiated some schemes because this problem is becoming so severe that it takes the headlines during the October-November period when the situation is very bad. So we have that Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. It established a high-level monitoring committee to implement what is called a central sector scheme for in situ management of rice residue in Haryana, Punjab, UP, Delhi, Chandigarh, through their state departments of agriculture, involving State Agriculture University, and also involving the ICR, Atari, and Krishi Vigyan Kendra. And this is being monitored through PMO office. And besides that, because this is for in situ management of residue, but it has impact of air quality. So we have a Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, which has the portfolio of pollution. So they have established through a law, there is a Commission for Air Quality Management in National Capital Region and adjoining areas. So this controls and Central Pollution Control Board, which in turn controls state pollution control boards to check on these activities. So, and of course, our laboratory, that CREAMS laboratory, provides inputs to this high-level monitoring committee or to this Commission for Air Quality Management, whenever they need information on residue burning. Okay. So is it okay? Shall we proceed further? This is the background. I need some response from the participants.
Yes, sir.
Okay, they are listening, they are awake. They are not simply a icon on the screen. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So now there is a saying that what you cannot manage what you don't measure. So one of the problem is to manage residue burning. So how to manage it if you don't know what is the scale of problem? How much amount of residue is burnt? How much area is burnt? Which crop is burnt? When it is burnt? Where it is burnt? So it means you need observations, and for observations or data, if you want to do it at a scale which is required at the ground, it is not humanly possible in real time. And if you want to do it, it entails a very huge cost. So many of the things where you need information observations, they are nowadays coming from remote sensing. Remote sensing means sensing from a distance. That is typical, a bookish definition where the sensor is not in direct contact with the object about whose property it is measuring, but in reality, in operational sense, we want to say that we are placing some sensors in a satellite which is going around the Earth, and it is taking some kind of measurements, including like taking photographs by your mobile camera. That is also a kind of measurement. So similar kind of cameras, but much more better, with more number of wavelengths, sensitivities to wavelength, with very different kind of resolutions. The cameras are put on the satellites. They keep observing time and again, every nook and corner of this Earth. So why we want to use this technology in agriculture? Because it gives us a range of spatial and spectral resolution. Mean to say that if you are interested in doing a field scale application, you can do that. If you want to do a regional scale application, your data and observations at regional scale are also provided. Right?
या आज वाला अभी जो चल रहा है.
Then another thing is that because many of the time you need monitoring. Monitoring means you need to revisit the area, you need to re-observe. So satellite has that advantage that they come at a regular interval from 1 day, 5 days, 15 days. They keep coming. So you have a kind of repetitivity in observations. And many times they may not measure the direct biophysical parameters which we are interested, like what is the moisture content in the leaf, what is the chlorophyll content in the leaf, number of leaves in a plant. They may not able to measure, but they may indirectly measure through a different indices, so which are related to these parameters. And not only that, it also observes a lot of crop environment information, like what is temperature, rainfall, soil moisture. So it is not only monitoring the soils and crops, but also the environment. Another thing is because this is the digital age, and whatever information, data, observations are provided by satellite, they are in digital format. So they are very amenable to computer algorithms. They are easy to share, they are easy to store, and they thus provide low cost per unit area of measurement. And another important thing is that now there are so many national space agencies which are providing data nearly free, as well as there are many commercial entities which have come into this area where you can buy your data. Even you can request to schedule their satellites to monitor a particular location as per your requirement. Of course, it costs money, but even that kind of thing can be done. They can even monitor if you have to do observations every half an hour for a particular area on the surface, they can do that. I hope if you all remember the first images of the Galwan clash in the Ladakh, which came out, it came from images from a satellite which is called Maxar. Maxar is basically an Airbus company, and it is a commercial satellite imaging company. So it provided those images. And another important thing is that if you are really interested, the satellites have historical standardized data sets or observations. So it is not that what you get today. For the same area, how it was 10 years, 20 years, 30 years back, you can actually get data on that. It is all archived. You can have a look at that data set. So if you want to do a long-term changes, those kind of things are also there. So like here is one satellite image, which is at a very high resolution in the sense where every field you can see, and over that I have overlaid the survey number. It means the Khata Khatani number of the farm holding. This is 1 meter resolution image versus this is a 250 meter resolution image where you are looking at nearly whole of India. From here, Gujarat to desert to Haryana, Punjab, part of Pakistan, Afghanistan, then you are looking at central India to southern part of southern India, and even part of Tibet. So if you are interested in regional scale application, so corresponding data is also available. So basically remote sensing from satellite provides you the information of what, where, and when. So this is what is needed in many of your policies, plans, implementation plans. Another thing is that this also called remote sensing data is also called as Earth observation data And much of the Earth observation data is practically available free on the internet. And very recently, a new satellite has come from US, which is called Landsat 9. So it has started providing data free from the 7th of February. And which is a continuation of a long series of satellite data which was first launched in 1972. So successive satellite of Landsat series are providing data from 1972. So now is 2022, and they may do for another 15 years, 14 years, and then there may be successive satellites. So what I'm saying that that data is available from USGS because it is United States Geological Survey, or it is also such kind of satellite data is available from European Satellite Agency, European Space Agency, and it is a very beautiful data set which is available. If you have, if some of you have a background in computers or you have an interest, so both these agency provides computer APIs to access their data and manipulate the data. So through algorithms, you can actually fetch, manipulate, do the data and give a output final analysis. You need not to actually download and do analysis. So they provide APIs to access those data. And then we have another out of the Google family. If you are not aware, there is a Google Earth engine, because most of you have seen Google Earth and you might have used Google Earth to visualize how at different resolution the area of your interest looks like from the satellite. But besides that is only a visual interface, Google Earth. But besides that, it provides a cloud-based computing environment, which is called Google Earth Engine. So there in JavaScript or in Python, you can actually write your code to access all the data, process all the data, and you can do global data analysis. So there is no limit to that because it is all cloud-based platform. They are providing it free. Once you have a Gmail account, you can also have a Google Earth Engine account. And besides that, we have our own interface from Indian Space Research Organization, which is called Bhuvan. So Bhuvan do also provide some of the Indian satellite data freely available, but these three provides everything in real time. It does not yet provide in near real time. But anyway, much of the Indian satellite data is also available nearly free. It is not exactly fully free. It is nearly free. Okay. And another thing is that many of the open source softwares have also been made available, which can manipulate these data if you want. So you need not to spend any money. If you have a good computer, you can download the data. You can actually use this free software to manipulate the data if you have that understanding. And even you can build up a lot of applications, web-based applications using open source like GeoServer, OpenLayers, or you can use data analytics. You can, we have libraries in R or in Scilab which can manipulate the satellite data also. So I hope most of you or many of you are using R to do your data analysis. So they have library like raster libraries there to manipulate the satellite images also. Just to tell you about IRI, from where I am there, it is now 117 years old institute, and ISRI, which is in whose campus NAIP is also located, and that is also as an academic branch we have with us ISRI and NAIP. So we were the first to conduct the remote sensing experiment in the country in 1969 on coconut wilt disease. And this was an experiment with our own space agency and with American Space Agency, NASA. So this department where I am there, we have been, our teachers, our predecessors have been developing this technology. And first time in 1969, they conducted this experiment. This experiment was very novel. So it was done on the Kerala coast in Kayangulam area, where they wanted to see whether actually the coconuts get impacted by a wilt disease. And you see the wilt can be seen from the top only because you have to look at the crown from the top. But coconut is a tall tree, so from below you cannot look. So a camera was provided, a multispectral camera was provided by NASA. A platform was provided by ISRO, a helicopter kind of platform. And the Agriculture Physics Division of IRI conducted this experiment that whether through imaging, first thing is we can identify different type of coconuts, and can we identify the coconut trees which are wilted or not. Then we were involved in joint experiment program with ISRO to what kind of sensor should be flown on Indian space program in 1980s. If you are not aware, India launched its own remote sensing satellite first time in 1988. It is called IRS-1A. So before that, they had to conduct a lot of field experiments on the ground, and we were involved in that. We have introduced this course teaching on remote sensing and GIS way back in 1980s at postgraduate level, when many of the engineering colleges were even not aware of this technology, because now many engineering colleges, universities give MTech masters in remote sensing, GIS, geoinformatics as a specialized course or a degree. But that is a scenario of late 1990s or early 2000s. So we have been 20 years ahead of them in an agriculture institute. So many of our MSc PhD students are using this technology in their research work. And of course, we have built up state-of-the-art laboratories, equipments, including having our own satellite ground station at IRI. So these are those images from that first experiment. So that is just to give you the brief background. And this is the satellite ground station. This is the camera this is the antenna which was being installed. It was installed in 2012. This is the covering of that antenna. This is a 4-meter antenna. And then there is lab which processes the data. And this is our location in India at Delhi. And you see this circle. Whenever satellites enter this circle, our ground station, our antenna can actually communicate with the satellite, and whatever they are imaging, they download the data to our computers and we analyze. So we get a lot of data from different countries like USA, European Union, and those are the type of data we use for this particular kind of work, which is monitoring the crop residue burning. So just to give you an example, one of the main workhorse satellite is from USA NASA satellite. It is called SNPP and its sensor is called VIRS. And it provides information on active fire events at 375-meter resolution and do it both day and night. Similarly, there are 2 more satellites from NASA, which is called Aqua and Terra, and have a sensor, same sensor called MODIS. And it provides the information on active fire events at 1 meter. Then another US satellite, which is operated by the meteorological agencies, is called NOAA 1819. Actually, NOAA 18 is now out of service. Now NOAA 19 and NOAA 20 is there. Then similarly, there are European satellites from which is called METOP 1 and METOP 2, and they are mostly used to do active fires during night. Besides that, so when you want to do residue burning monitoring from satellites, you can do it in 2 ways. One is to look for the fire in the field. So how to look for the fire in the field? You have to measure the temperature. So if your temperature at a given location is above the surrounding, above a critical threshold from the surrounding, you can call it as an active fire. So these all satellites are actually used to do active fire. So this is at a coarser resolution of 375 to 1 kilometer. But you can actually map which is the area which has been burnt. So that is using 2 satellites. One is from European Space Agency, that is called Sentinel 2A, and another from USA Landsat 8. I told you on 7th February, they have launched a Landsat 9, which is a follow-on satellite. And using this data at a 20-meter resolution, I can map the burnt area, and with using this satellite at a 30-meter resolution, I can map the burnt area. So don't get confused with some terms at this point of time. It would be more clarified in the following slides. So basically what is happening in satellite? So a satellite is placed in a polar orbiting satellite. It means from North Pole to South Pole, it keeps going. This is the satellite, and it is a camera which actually maps a particular width of area. So it keeps mapping, taking imaging, or whatever measurement it has to do. So it keeps on going, and you know, Earth keeps rotating below because Earth is rotating on its axis. So this orbit height could be somewhere around 400 to 1000 meters above. So from 400 to 1000 kilometer above, they do the imaging or measurements. And because they keep on going in this orbit and Earth keep rotating, so they keep covering different areas of the Earth at different point of time. So I hope most of you would be knowing that there is a thing called thermal imaging, and it has become very prominent during this Corona period. Whenever you enter a building, you will find a guard is having a instrument which from a distance it looks at your temperature. So that is called thermal, that is called infrared thermometer. So similar kind of technology we put in the satellites, which is called thermal remote sensing. It means for every point on the Earth, it measures what is the temperature. So based on this temperature, whenever satellite is passing, you can calculate at each location whether it is an active fire or it is not an active fire. So if this active fire is in a crop field, then that is most probably a crop residue fire. And then if it is in the field which is under your crop of interest like paddy, then you can assign that this fire is due to paddy residue burning. So, okay, so this is one technology where it actually measures the temperature. Like from two different satellites I told you, one is from SNPPVS, so it keeps on giving us wherever it is happening. And wherever these red dots are there, these are the fires which are being monitored by different satellites. And these satellites come day and night and different point of time. So you can cover multiple times, you can cover the same area in a day. But keep minding that satellite is always not there at every point of time. So this is one way to do residue burning from satellite remote sensing. Another is, you can see here, this is a 20-meter data set where you can actually are looking at the fields. And this is a false color composite because it uses a near infrared region wavelength to develop this image where crop appears red. So wherever you are seeing the red color, actually it is all the rice crop and there is a road. And when the crop has been harvested and you look at that, so if you look at these darkish patches, these are all those fields where the crop was there and it has been burnt. Wherever dark black is there, these are the recently burnt. Wherever still red color is there, it means the crop is standing. And wherever you are finding whitish to brownish, these are the fields where the crop has not been burnt. So even the satellite, it looks at sometime coming at that time where the actual burning is happening and you can see a smoke plume also. So these are the two different kind of data sets we get from the satellites. One is to map the area, to quantify the area burnt, and another is to in real time see where the fire is there. Is it okay? Shall we move further?
Bolo bhai.
Or I am becoming too technical, though I am trying not to be. Any question till this point of time?
No question. They are writing in chat box. Nice presentation. Nice.
No, that is fine. That is okay.
But yeah.
Questions always provides that opportunity to simulate your mind to ask. It means you are thinking. You are trying to digest what I have been telling. Anyway, so going further, just to tell you that we basically, if thermal remote sensing for measuring temperature, actually the range is something around 10 to 12 micrometer. But the problem is 10 to 12 micrometer is the range. At this wavelength, Earth also emits its own radiation because on an average, the Earth's temperature is 300 degree Kelvin. So it means it is something like 27 degrees centigrade on an average. The Earth's temperature is there. So it also emits in the same wavelength. And whatever energy is emitted from the sun, that peaks around visible range, because this is the peak. So there is one range which is around 3.9 micrometer, where there is no radiation much from the sun and there is no emitted radiation from the Earth. So we tried to use this particular wavelength to monitor the active fires from the satellite, because there is no noise from the Earth's own emission as well as no noise from the whatever radiation is coming from the sun. So that is why 3.9 micrometer, if we use that particular wavelength to determine the temperature, that is having much higher accuracy as well as much higher sensitivity as compared to using around 10.8, 10 to 12 micrometer. So that is what I wanted to tell. And even if your pixel may be 375, but even 0.04, not 0.4, 0.04 percent of the pixel is under fire, that would also be detected much clearly at 3.9 micrometer. So it means if we assume that pixel size is 400 meter by 400 meter, so even a 1 by 1 meter fire could be detected. And this is how we look at for mapping. This is the false color image I told you earlier. This is the crop areas. And the same after harvesting and burning, we look at many dates, because burning does not happen on one day. So we can actually in satellite, we can clearly see the burnt out fields, and using satellite digital image analysis, we can actually, because the pixel size is known to us, we can actually calculate how much of the area is under this blackened category, how much area is under non-blackened category, and which are under non-agriculture area itself. So that is the basics. So for doing active fire burning events, we actually we get data from these satellites at our IRA ground station. So because the satellites are looking at data which is even outside India, so first we mask out all the burning events which are happening outside India. So that we don't talk of what is happening in Pakistan or what is happening in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or in Nepal or China. Then we apply what is called a land use land cover map, so that only those fires which are over croplands, they are retained, and rest everything are masked out. So those fires which are in the forest area, those fires which are from the chimneys or industries, from the big factories, so they are all masked out, or the fires which are in urban areas or non-agricultural area, they are all removed. Then in real time, we use satellite data of that season to draw what is called, to estimate what is rice area. So whatever fires are happening in this rice area, that is the paddy residue burning fires. We export it to Google Earth, because those locations are exported to Google Earth, because still many times the brick kilns which are mostly located in agricultural area, their chimney also get recorded as a fire point. Or many times nowadays solar panels or solar parks will be developed in the agricultural area. So because solar panels are much higher in temperature due to exposure to radiation, they falsely get detected as fire points. So those are also we remove. Then these satellites work on GMT time period. We aggregate to whatever fires are happening in a day from different satellites as per Indian Standard Time. Then each fire is estimated by an algorithm, so that we look at the confidence of that fire. Algorithm also tells that from the temperature data, how confident I am to estimate a fire. So if the confidence is low, we still remove that fire. Then we apply the district boundary, and then we actually generate the statistics that in this district, on this day, at this location, how many fires are there. And then we generate a bulletin in real time every day and disseminate to all stakeholders. So this bulletin is available on our website since 2018, 19, 20, 21. So if you are interested, you can go to creams.ira.res.in and look for the residue burning bulletins tab and you can look at this bulletins. Is it okay? So this is one. So in that bulletin, what is there? Like in 2021 for Punjab, we recorded between 15th of September to 30th of November. That is basically the harvesting season. Something like 71,304 residue burning events and how every day they were located. So mostly if you see this year, they were located around 6th to 10th or 11th of November. Every day something like 5,000 events were happening. So this is the time. This year 2020 was a particularly very peculiar year because the rain continued longer than normally it happens. So the harvesting was delayed. Otherwise, many a times the peak comes around 28, 29, 30th October. But this time it was delayed by some 6 to 10 days. And 6 to 12 November was the peak when maximum burning took place. In Haryana, as compared to Punjab 71,000, we had only something around 6,981 burning events. And they were fairly distributed between 15th October to something like 21st November. And Uttar Pradesh, though it is much a bigger state with larger area under rice, but there this practice is not as prominent as is in Punjab. Only 4,242 events were recorded. And mostly they are the events because their harvesting is delayed. So it is towards the second or it is third or fourth week of November when you get more burning. And sometime it also continues for in first and second week of December also. This is how in Rajasthan, actually Rajasthan, there are very few events, 1350. And this is actually coming mainly from one or two districts of that particular state. Now, surprisingly, you see the Madhya Pradesh, it is having much higher number of paddy residue burning, though its paddy residue is not as large as Haryana or UP. So 8,160. And there also you see when it has peaked around 11th to 16th November. Delhi this year we recorded only, we have around 5,000 to 6,000 hectares of rice. And satellite recorded only 4 burning events of paddy residue. And then you do a cumulative comparison day-wise. Every day we do, this is at the end of the season. So in 2020, there were 83,002 events which were recorded. In 21, it has reduced by approximately 15%, 14% to 71,304 in Punjab. In Haryana, it has been the other way around. In 2020, there were 4,202 events, but in 2021, it has increased to 6,987. So there was a 66.3% increase in events in Haryana. So such kind of
Your audio got disconnected. You got muted, Dr. Sehgal.
muted and I am also logged out. It's again I logged in.
Okay.
So my presentation is visible or not?
You need to share it again. Visible now. Visible.
I don't know, somewhere some
It happens.
some disruption in the connection suddenly. So this is the comparison of fire events. So, but there are two different ways to look at the things. Suppose, just to give you example, it shows that 83,002 were the number of fire events in 2020 in Punjab. It has reduced to 71,304 in 2021. Actually, the satellite not only look at the number of events of fire, but they can actually measure the intensity of fire. It means how hot the fire is. Because that hotness of the fire depends on how much amount of biomass is being burnt. So our interest is to know whether there is a reduction in the biomass burnt or not, or increase in the biomass burnt. So we compare what is called fire radiative power. So fire radiative power, if you see, it tells about the intensity of fire. So though there was 14% decline in the number of events, the fire radiative power both here was more or less same. So it means the number of events were less, the amount of biomass which was burnt was more or less similar. So you see, this is also the kind of information which is being provided by the satellites. Of course, in Rajasthan, there is a decline in the number of events, but amount of biomass burnt is much higher this year. So sometimes the number of events are confusing. They give a wrong picture. But it shows that more amount of, because radiative power this year 2021 was much more than that in 2020. So it means more amount of biomass has been burnt. It means more air pollutants might have been emitted by the paddy residue burning. So as I told you, then we provide, actually this is provided for the state governments, district officials, central ministry, that for each day and at the end of the season, for which are the districts which are having the maximum burning, like it shows that, sorry, Sangrur is having nearly 10,000 events recorded, whereas Pathankot, which is having very less marginal area of rice, only 6 events. So it is which are those districts where any policy plan is to be focused. It is the Sangrur, it is to be the Firozpur, it is to be the Moga, it is the Ludhiana, it is Patiala. And similarly, if you see in Haryana, the maximum actually is in Fatehabad and followed that by Kathal, Karnal, Kurukshetra, Jeend. So these are the districts. Surprisingly, in 21, Sirsa also recorded something around 551 events. So generally Sirsa used to be less than 100 in earlier years. And if you see in Uttar Pradesh, it is the Shahjahanpur, which is having maximum number of events recorded, and followed by the others are Pilibhit, Mathura, then Ramnagar, Rampur. So these are, there are actually few districts which are having more practice of residue burning. I am taking a lecture. And you see in Rajasthan, it is the Hanumangarh which is having 99% of the events or 95% of the events. Hanumangarh. So in Rajasthan, if you want to control, this is one district, and that too it is concentrated in those areas which are bordering Punjab. Madhya Pradesh, it is again Jabalpur, Hoshangabad, Sheopur, Sioni, and Gwalior, and then also Datia. So in other states, like in Haryana, Punjab, it is mostly pan-Punjab, but in other states, there are pockets where more burning is practiced. So then, because we are doing remote sensing, we can produce the maps and we can look at weekly how the number of fire events starts building up. So between 19th to 25th of September, it is around Amritsar where the burning take place, and even up to 2nd of October, it is Amritsar and Tarantaran area where the burning events are mostly recorded. And the reason being that this is also the belt where The farmer goes for, after paddy, they go for planting of potato. So this is the potato belt, or some go for peas, vegetables. So this is the belt where initially the burning starts of residue. And you can imagine, this is something like 19th, 15th to 19th September, they start harvesting paddy in these areas around Amritsar. So by 3rd and 9th of October, it still increases in this area, but then in Patiala, Sangrur, you also start seeing. Then by 10th to 16th October, it is spreading out. By 17th to 13th October, you can see it spread stream more, go to the south. And then it is covering by 30th October, most of the districts, except which are these districts which are near the Himalayan range where rice is less. And then you see by 31st October to 6th November is the time when throughout Punjab there is a burning is happening, continuing up to 13th November. And then it starts reducing now, because earlier burning happened in all these areas, no burning. So by 30th November, most of the events are over. So such kind of maps we also do produce and tell to the required stakeholders. And then we are not only doing for Haryana, Punjab, UP, we are actually doing every day for whole of the India. So just to give an example, in November 2019, these are the number of events wherever you are seeing the reddish to orangish color. These are the number of events which are recorded throughout the India. This is in May 2020. And you see there is a lot of burning happening in central India to these rain-fed regions. Even in Bihar, go to Assam, Gujarat. Of course, there the meteorological conditions during October, November are not like that, which is called typical atmospheric inversion, so that all pollutants get trapped near the surface. So they get distributed. So there, this does not become a bigger problem. But just for your information, that even in May, so you see, one of the reasons given for burning of paddy residue is that farmers have to go for the sowing of the next succeeding crop of wheat. And there is no time in between harvesting of paddy and sowing of wheat, very less time, 10 to 15 days. And in that period, they have to remove the stubble or the residues and also plow the field, prepare the field for the sowing of the next crop. But what is happening after May? After May, you have a time in June. By July, you have sufficient number of days for the harvest, because wheat is mostly harvested by the end of April, beginning May. And then you have whole May, June available, and then you go for July sowing of paddy. Not only there, you see a lot of wheat residue is burnt in Madhya Pradesh. A lot of residue is burnt in Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra. So if you see, for whole India, this is just one crop season from June 2019 to May 2020. Of course, the maximum number of events in a year, something like, are that in Punjab, 60,000. Followed by 40,000 events are that of in Madhya Pradesh. And most of these events in Madhya Pradesh are wheat residue burning events. Though we say wheat residue is more palatable by animals, after wheat we have a long time for the sowing of the next Kharif crop. Temperatures are also higher, so if you mix the residue into the soil, they will also decompose fast. But still, a lot of burning do happen there. So overall, something like more than 2 lakh events we record for whole India. And mostly these are October, November, and then April, May. These are the seasons when the burning is dominating across the different months over India, and only during the monsoon period we have negligible burning. Otherwise, even in Jan, Feb, March, like in December, January, we have sugarcane residue burning events being recorded. And actually all these burning event maps for every day since 2016, 17 or 18, they are available on ICAR Geo Krishi portal. So this is using open source technologies. We have put up an application. Also, the similar application is there on CREAMS portal. We have a geo portal. If you click on that, you can actually visualize the maps. So I think I'll just stop here and go to the website just to show you that those maps. Many of you might be in ICR, and if you are not in ICR, you are from other agencies. Still, you can also use these maps for your research purpose, for your own planning. So let me share my Explorer. It's my Explorer, yeah, share. So are you able to see my Explorer? Please somebody respond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can put as IARI CREAMS in Google search. If you put only CREAMS, you will go to all the websites which sell the cosmetics. But if you put IRI CREAMS, you will get to this CREAMS website. So this is one table. This is that was paddy residue burning up to 30th 11. What this thing we put, and here you will see this is monthly crop residue burning of all states of India. So this is updated till this is March 21, April 20, December 21, January 22, and February 22 up to 14. So today is 15. So these are the number of events updated up till yesterday. Okay. And then actually, if you see here, you can see the bulletins. So there is bulletin for 18, 19, 20, 21. There are special bulletins. I'll click on bulletin, and every day bulletin would be there. You can actually click on the bulletin and you can look at this bulletin. What are the highlights for that? By this is on 15th October in Punjab, Haryana, how many number of events, how it has compared with respect to last year. Then intensity, what is happening, where are all burning is happening, the map, which district on that day has shown maximum, and up till that, since the start of the season, how many in that district's events have been recorded. So similarly for Haryana, Punjab, UP, and even we provide the tables in terms of events numbers this year, last year, even we can compare it with respect to 4 or 5 years back. And then for whole India, we also provide for whole Punjab, Haryana comparison. And then for each location, this is important, that if somebody wants to verify the location, it provides what is the latitude, longitude, what date, what time during day or night, and what was the fire intensity. So this kind of every day we put the bulletins. So this bulletin, I go back to home, and you can look at another thing which is called crop residue burning maps. So this will take you to another geo portal. It is similar to ICR geo portal. That also you can actually, if you want to look there also you can look at. You can call it ICR Krishi Geo Portal. You click on that. So, sorry, you go to home and you click on ICR Geo Portal. And it is similar to what you will see at CREAMS, because ICR Geo Portal is also running. Their server is running from my lab only. Of course, the interface is through the ICR data center in ISRI, but background it is running from my. So similar thing you will. So once you will see a India boundary would come, you can actually look at this. Are you able to see the left side? Crop residue burning all India, crop residue burning paddy, crop residue burning wheat.
Yes, it is coming.
It is, if you click on the all India, you can click on your year of interest, like 2021, you are, let us go to 2022. So I can go to 2022 and this is February. So 14th February where it was, let me click. So these are the ones where the burning happened. So if you want more clarity, go to the India state and district and overlay the state boundary. And actually you can zoom in also. And using this pan, you can actually pan. It is like a Google Earth. So you can keep zooming. So you see now it is in areas in Aurangabad, in Pune, in Solapur, in Sangli and neighboring Karnataka, north interior Karnataka, where the burning is happening. And you can actually click at the districts also. So it will put in the district boundary. This is a geographic information system. So those are, even if you want tehsil boundaries, they would also come. So now you are if you zoom in the background, it will also zoom in the map. So it will take a bit of time also in loading. So this is Solapur city. And then there is a village called Tadwal. So where it is, that location is all there. So you can actually click on this identify button on the top and actually click on an event. So this would provide you more detail. So it is telling that it is in the layer is Solapur, Maharashtra, and you click on fire event of 14th February. So here it is telling you it is on which date, what lat long, which is the acquisition date, acquisition time, which satellite, what was the fire intensity, and which is the district, state, and all those things. So each event you can actually look at, and this different symbols, what these different symbols represent, you can click at the show legend. So you see it is showing the intensity. So if intensity is lower, it is actually orangish in color. If the intensity is between 5 to 10 watts, it is square. If it is between 10 to 15, it is a bigger circle. If it is 15 to 20, it is a triangular. And if it is more than 20 watts per meter square, then it is a dark, very dark brownish circle. So this is how you can actually look at a particular day. If you click on, let it come. So you can click on 13th, it will populate 12th, 11th, 10th. So it is between 1st February to 14th February. And a very surprising feature, actually, I have done a lot of ground truth in Maharashtra, so I know. You see this, there is a Bhima river and there is another river here along the Pune boundary. And you see a lot of burning events are coming. It is all due to, because this is the area where sugarcane is grown and this is the sugarcane harvesting season. So you know Sharad Pawar's area where our ICR Institute Baramati is there. So this is all area in the catchment of river where a lot of sugarcane is grown. Its residue is burnt even there. Is it okay? So shall I stop this? The same thing is available on ICR Krishi Jyoti. Similarly, one thing which I wanted to tell, which I'll show here. So if you are interested, all India means it is irrespective of any crop residue burning. When we call it paddy, so we can do it, we can look at paddy, and then we do during November and October only. And we do it for the states where we are mandated to do it. So if I put it the boundaries of states, so these are the states. So you see, actually, this is the Ghaggar river which is flowing, and in its catchment rice is grown. So in Haryana also, and this is the area in Hanumangarh. In Rajasthan, you will not find much burning anywhere else. And it is here only in Hanumangarh, which is there is this is a catchment of Ghaggar River where the rice is grown, and the same Haryana, Punjab, which is neighboring, it is that burning takes place. The same practices are adopted there. And you can actually look at 16, 17, 18, whatever it wants to look at. So this is visualization as maps using all open source free technologies. Satellite data is free. This interface development is free. Only thing is it has been hosted on some computers, either at ICR data center or in our Creams lab. Okay, so I'll stop sharing. And let me go back to my presentation. I don't know if anybody is finding the presentation interesting.
Yeah, I think it is interesting.
Not from your point of view, Dr. Rajni.
No, they are writing. We can.
Yes, sir, it is really interesting. We are all keen in watching that. And we are really amazed to see that technology we have developed in our agricultural field also. That too on par with our ISRO. And we are also able to cope up this identification of some thrust areas. That too in our agricultural science. That's what I too have asked, that can we apply this principle in detection of groundwater like that?
Groundwater, I'll reply to that. I'll reply to that when we'll come to question answer. That is a basic side question, but I can reply. No worry. The thing is, Dr. Bhaskar, the thing is that nowadays the all subjects are mingling together. We talk of multifaceted, multi-institution, multi-subject collaboration work. So it is not that I'm basically a BSc AG. I am not a computer guy. I am not a sensor guy, but I can understand. So anybody else can understand. There is nothing. And we are actually, this is what we provide to the state governments and to the ministry. At the highest level, it goes, this input goes in the country for decision making. So just to show you, and these things we have tried to, I follow that philosophy that whatever has been made available free to me, let me, whatever analysis I do, I make it freely available for people to look at. So everything is there on a public website. So now coming to, this is what we actually measure the active fire events. It means when there is a burning is happening and satellite is there, it is detecting. But many a time it happens the fires are very small, satellite are not able to detect. Many times it happens that there is a cloud and satellite is not able to look at the ground. Many times it happens that farmers are knowing, nowadays actually they have become quite educated. They know when is the satellite time pass approximate. So they try to avoid burning at that point of time so that their burning may not get detected in real time. So whatever number of events which we have talked of, that is a bit of underestimation. There is an underestimation. I cannot quantify how much it could be underestimation, but maybe something like 10 to 40% might be a underestimation as compared to what actual number of events are there. Okay, that is a basic, my own a guesstimate, I can say. Now the other thing is there, which we don't do in real time, but we do it during the season. Yeah, just excuse me. Hello. Hanji. Hanji. वो ना गर्म कर रहा है ना ठंडा कर रहा है. ये NRL बिल्डिंग पूसा में, अब आज तो नहीं आइएगा, कल आइएगा. ये ऑफिस है तो हाँ, आज तो बंद हो जाएगा. तो आप मुझे कल एक बार फोन कर लीजिएगा तो मैं आपकी लोकेशन भेज दूंगा. अच्छा, हाँ ठीक है. हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी, कल के लिए ठीक है. Now the other thing is what we can do, because this fire detection, it depends on so many things and we may not able to detect all fires. but we can use a very high resolution data set that map every 20 by 20 meter and actually map those fields which have been burned. So in actual field, when we go, we get this kind of situation that some fields are machine harvested, somewhere the crop is standing, somewhere they are manually harvested and there is some stubble. Where it is machine harvested, it is stubble is there as well as residue is lying all along. And sometimes it is hand harvesting and then residues are lined up in the field. And when they are burnt, you get this kind of photograph. So these are from the fields. So you can imagine when we want to map the fields, and this harvest season is not 1 day, 2 day or a week period. It is extended over a 2 months period. So because some farmer crop may be maturing on some days, he may be harvesting someday, he may be burning someday. So at a given time, whenever satellite is imaging, all those kind of fields are there. Somewhere standing crop is there, somewhere machine harvested, hand harvested, and burnt field and non-burnt field. All those kind of situation remains there. So what we do, we have developed certain kind of spectral indices. So using different wavelengths, like there is one index called a CARI, chlorophyll absorption ratio index. It uses red and blue and green wavelength, and this is very responsive to the presence of chlorophyll. So based on chlorophyll, when we did experiments, we found that this particular index can clearly differentiate between a mature crop and a harvested crop. You see its mean value is somewhere here, its mean value is here, and even its ranges are not overlapping. But this is not able to differentiate between harvested and burnt. So more or less their means are same and their range is also overlapping. So then we used another index which is called a normalized burnt ratio, that is using near infrared and shortwave wavelengths. And what we see that this particular index is very well able to differentiate between burnt and mature and harvested, burnt versus harvested, burnt versus mature. But there is some overlap between harvested and mature if we use this. So what we done, we use these indices to develop an algorithm where both of these indices are used to calculate the burnt area map. So first is that we have to do paddy classification. So we generate paddy classification map. So this is just to give you an example from this season only. This is Punjab final 20 meter. Wherever you are seeing any color, that is where there is a paddy crop is there. And if it is green, it means paddy crop has not been burnt. And where it is red, it means the paddy crop has been burnt. So this small area I am just showing, this is the Satluj river. And if you see on the north of the Satluj, there is so much burning. And on the south, there is very less, comparatively less burning, but still there are burning or burning is getting initiated. There is actually a plume. So from this map, which you see whole Punjab at one go in a one small half slide, actually the information is there at every plot scale in this. I don't want to go into technicalities of the methodology, but this is how we produce, and this is after analyzing every 5 days starting from October beginning till end of November. We for every day, 5th day, we take the images for whole of the state. We see where is the paddy standing, where it is harvested, where it is matured, and where it is burnt. So finally, we combine them and generate such kind of map, or we generate such kind of statistics that how much is the rice area in each district, how much is the burnt area, and what is the burnt percentage. So here, the problem is we are not leaving any of those fields which were not detected under active fire, because satellite might not be there, cloud may be there. But here, because we are doing every 5 day at 20 meter, we are able to map out where are all the fields which have been burnt. And these are also available. These maps at a more resolution, higher resolutions are available on the GeoPortal also. So such kind of information we also provide. But this we are able to do only after end of the season. So if 30th November, this season is over. So we take another 15 to 20 days to do the complete analysis in our lab to provide such kind of information. So, or this is for Haryana. Similarly, where are all the rice is there and where all it is burnt out, and what are those statistics. And this we also do a comparison of area 2020 versus 2021. This is up to 20th November. Then we had updated to 30th November also. So you can see 2018, like in Punjab, the area burnt was 3.06 million hectare. Area under rice was 3.06 million hectare. Burnt area was 1.51 million hectare, which was 49.4%. 19, it reduced to, from 1.51 million hectare, it reduced to 1.11 million hectare, which was 37.4%. In 2020, it increased even beyond 218 to 1.66 million hectare, which was 55.7. So such kind of analysis we do. Then we have also developed a semi-empirical model to calculate how much amount of greenhouse gases and pollutants are getting emitted. So, I told you that satellite does not only locate the active fire, but they also measure the intensity of the fire. So we did a lot of ground experimentation measurements. We did control burning in farmers' field in Haryana, Punjab, and measured what are the emission factors, emission coefficients for each of the pollutants, and how they relate the amount of biomass burned to the intensity of fire. So based on that, we have developed a semi-empirical model. I don't know how good or bad it is, but it is one way of estimating how much amount of pollutants are emitting by this particular activity, that is biomass burning. And it is only we have developed for rice. For other crops, we have not yet developed, but you can imagine to see for all of Punjab, 48,000 tons of methane, 1.26 thousand tons of NOx, 27,208 tons of CO2, 1,600 tons of carbon monoxide, then 70 tons of particulate matter 2.5, which is very, very harmful for the health, causes breathing and breathing problems to the population. 36,000 tons of particulate matter 10, and this is the total in Haryana how much it is and UP how much it is. So this methodology we are trying to improve and putting it for peer review. Our methodology we are also sharing with India Meteorological Department our estimates of greenhouse gases and particulate matter emissions, so that they can actually model to see how these are carried to Delhi. Because what we estimate is how much it is emitted at the location where the burning happened. But we are not having the facility or capability to calculate how much it is taken to the capital, that is Delhi, because the air quality goes worse there. So India Meteorological Department using some numerical weather models where wind speed at different heights, humidity, and all those kind of pressure differences, they are using our inputs to calculate how much of this would be taken up to the, or how they would be distributed in space. So this is where we are collaborating. Now we are coming to what are the options to manage the paddy residue. Of course, there are agronomic interventions like crop diversification. Of course, largely it has failed to work in Haryana, Punjab. So they say you switch over from rice wheat to maize wheat or cotton wheat, so that so much water is not being used by the rice, so we can save on the water, as well as we can prevent the residue burning of rice if we switch over to maize or cotton. But the bottom line is all economics. The remunerations from maize wheat and cotton wheat does not match whatever remuneration and secured income which farmers in at least Haryana, Punjab, UP are getting in rice and wheat. So that is the status of crop diversification. Punjab very vigorously took this initiative. State government level schemes were implemented, but overall it has failed over the past 10 years. So rice wheat continues to be practiced by the farmers. Another is that the government thought of introducing the shorter duration varieties. One of the very popular non-basmati paddy varieties called Pusa 44 from our institute only. This is actually a longer duration variety of the order of 156 days. And it produces a very good yield, but it also produces a lot of biomass. So government denotified this PUSA 44 that no seed production agency would able to produce its seed and distributes to farmer. So over time, its area is declining because, farmers, they many times they keep seed from their own harvest for the next season. So it has not totally gone away, but it is reducing. And from Punjab Agriculture University variety, shorter duration varieties like PR121, PR126, PR122, 124, they are being promoted so that we get time, these varieties mature early, and we get time in between to manage the paddy residue through many other in situ interventions. So that is one thing. So then other thing is which government has been promoting and providing a lot of subsidy under central government scheme for in situ paddy residue management is providing subsidy to farmers in buying machines for like attaching a straw management system with a paddy harvester. Even a law was made in Punjab and Haryana that no combine harvester can work in the field unless it is attached with a straw management system. So what this straw management system do, that whatever straw comes out, it chops into very, very small pieces so that it can be easily incorporated in the soil and degrade fast. Or going with the conservation tillage kind of practices, zero till or happy seeder sowing of the succeeding wheat crop with a happy seeder or super seeder, providing subsidy to rotary mulchers so that the paddy residue can be chopped off into smaller and spread out as a mulch. It will improve on the water use efficiency because it will store the moisture. So a lot of nearly 1,200 crore rupees over 3 to 4 years were spent by the central government in the 3 states. Of course, results are not as expected. You see from 16, 17, 18, 19, actually the residue burning events reduced, but in 20 it increased again, and 21 it remained higher. Of course, there was a lot of protest burning also. Then the microbiological solutions like IRI has come up with a PUSA decomposer, which is a consortium of fungi which produce enzymes. So 4 capsule which cost only ₹20 and is sufficient for preparing the application for 1 hectare land. All those things are available on YouTube. So this is one, but again, farmers are finding that they cannot wait for 20 to 25 days, which PUSA decomposer takes. And again, it all depends on the temperature also. So if temperatures are low, it may go to 30 days. If temperatures are high, decomposition may happen in 15 days. But still farmers are not finding it very, it is not yet been adopted at a very large scale. But this is also one option. Another options are ex situ management. It means from the field you collect the residue and take it somewhere else. So government is providing to the farmers subsidy on balers also, so that residue can be baled out, and then these bales can be sent to industry or to brick kilns for as a fuel, or to power plants. So many power plants also came up in Punjab. At least I remember 7 came up in Punjab, where from residue to power to be generated. I visited in 2015 one power plant, and all have nearly closed down. Again, the basic thing is economics. The economics of producing power from the residue comes to something like 7 to 8 rupees per unit. And hydroelectricity and solar electricity is available at 3 rupees a unit. So no state electricity board is ready to buy a power generated at a cost of 7 to 8 rupees per unit. So again, economics comes. Why the economics is poor? Because the calorific value of this stubble is not as good as that of coal. Its calorific value is low. There is a lot of ash is produced, which causes problem with the boilers in the power plant. So it needs frequent maintenance. There is more breakdown. Then another thing is that the whole biomass is available for 1 or 2 months, and you have to run the power plant for the whole year. So you have to keep sourcing residue. throughout the year on a cyclic basis. And mostly it is bulk material. You need large storage also, and it is very inflammable. So many times whatever you store, it get burnt out itself there itself. So there were a lot of problems, and all power plants have closed. So on paper, it appears very good that you use this to generate power, but economics does not work out. Now a new technology is being practiced and is being tried, which is called bio-CNG. I have heard that it appears to be economically viable. It means you degrade the plant's residue to generate the compressed natural gas and supply it to the CNG stations for vehicles or to industries. So it appears that as compared to producing electricity, producing CNG appears to be more economical, but I don't know at what scale. So this is still it is still under experimental stages, some bio-CNG plants. So this is all basically different management options which have been tried. And what we are being asked, like after 2018, we were asked, you tell us which are the villages which do complete burning or which do so much burning, and which are the villages which does not do at all any burning. So for us, it was easy. We had that burnt area map. We had we asked the state government to provide us the village boundary maps. So we overlaid the village boundary maps and calculated that each district, how many rice cultivating villages are there. Out of, like in Amritsar, there are 776 rice cultivating villages. Out of that, in 762 villages, rice burning is practiced. There are only 14 villages where no rice burning activity takes place. And there are 269 villages where only up to 0 to 5% of, more than 0 and up to 5% of rice area is burned. But there is no village where 100%, which means more than 95% rice area is burned. Whereas if you see in a particular district like Mansa, out of 244, there are 27 villages which are actually having more than 95% of the rice area burned. So such kind of information, I feel there is no other way out to generate. Why government wanted to target those villages where a lot of burning takes place. So these are the villages where a lot of burning actually happens, more than 95%. And as you go up, these are having lesser and lesser. So this is one way of providing the analysis out of our analytics. Then in 2020, as I told you, from 2016, 17, 18, 19, continuously there was decrease in the numbers. But in 2020, early in the season, we started seeing more number of events as compared to 2019. So the ministry asked, it is due to because there is early harvesting. The number are coming more during early October up to 10th, 15th October. So we did an analysis because we are having multiple dates. We know how much time it is there. So we found that higher incidence of burning in 2022 in comparison to 2019. Mind it, it is done in real time because this information was needed early. So maybe due to increase in area harvested as well as increase in practice of residue burning. So both are, we found that both are responsible. Early harvesting was also there, but increase of practice of residue burning was also there. And we found that increase in burning due to early harvesting is in only about 7,020 hectares, but increase in burning due to increasing burning practice was around in 16,380 hectares. So it means nearly in 16,380 hectares more practice of burning has happened, and early harvesting only accounted for 7,020 hectares. So it means that is the year when actually farmers are practicing or doing more and more burning. So such kind of early analysis we provided to say that it is not only the contribution of early harvesting is less, it is more about the practice which is being adopted by the farmers. Then similarly, they wanted to know government which is running that in situ rice residue management scheme and where providing the subsidy for equipments, whether that scheme is targeted well or not. So anyway, district rice area which we were estimating versus how many number of equipments on which subsidy was provided. So there is a very good straight relation, which shows that where there is more rice area, more equipments were provided on subsidy to the farmers. Of course, Muxar is a bit outsider where the area is not that much, but more number of equipments were provided. And not only the rice area, but district rice burnt area. There also, if you see your relation in terms of number of equipments on which subsidy was provided versus district rice burnt area, there was significant relation. So we said that the scheme was well targeted and more equipments were supplied in district with higher rice area and higher burnt area. Of course, R square is 0.4, but this is statistically significant at T value at 0.01, 99%. Then government also wanted to know, do supplying equipment on subsidy has prevented rice burning practice or not? So what we did an analysis. We tried to relate the number of equipment supplied per 1,000 hectare of rice area to how much of rice area was burnt, because these are all now statistics available with us. So we found where more number of equipment were supplied per 1,000 hectare area, the number of burning events were lower. So it means that higher number of equipment supplied resulted in decrease in rice area burnt. Of course, R square is 0.27 and significant only at 0.05. But, and this was after removing some outliers, which are 5 districts where the rice area is less than 20,000 hectares, like Pathankot, Ropar, and those kind of districts where rice area is very, very less. So if you include them, then there is no relation between number of equipment supplied per 1,000 hectare and the rice burnt area. But if you remove those outliers, there is some kind of relation. Then we also provided information. They wanted to know whether what is happening by increasing the area under shorter duration variety. Does it reducing the early burning events in Punjab or not? So what we found that this is SDV, shorter duration variety area, as a percentage of total rice area. So we put the districts, how much number of shorter duration variety, where there may be some districts which are having even 65 to 70% of their rice area under shorter duration variety. But still their early burning events were, as a percentage of total events, were also higher. So then we computed the change in area under shorter duration variety versus change in early burning events, and we found there is no relation. So our conclusion was that introduction of shorter duration variety or increasing area under shorter duration variety are not actually helping in reducing the paddy residue burning events. And that is mostly because where the farmers, where they were taking shorter duration variety, more and more shorter duration variety, they were introducing one more crop between rice and wheat, like potato, peas, other vegetables. So they are using shorter duration variety to take another extra crop. So that is why if you have to go for shorter duration variety, you may be harvesting rice early, but you are again planting another succeeding crop before taking wheat in December, late December or third week of December. Then we started also, government wanted information that we said we don't have readily available. We started research that government was promoting a lot of conservation tillage practices in rice wheat system, that after paddy, rice is to be, after paddy, wheat is to be transplanted using happy seeder, super seeder and all. So they said there is no actual authentic data of how much area is under conservation tillage practices. So during 2021, we took up a study in 2 districts of Haryana, Kaithal and Karnal. And first we found out where is non-paddy, where is the areas which are under paddy wheat. So using satellite remote sensing, we developed the technology, that protocol. That is easier to do, paddy wheat. And then where is burnt paddy? Then we developed again certain kind of spectral indices and a decision tree based to find out difference between a conventional sowing versus a happy seeder, versus a super seeder wheat versus a happy seeder wheat. So we would able to calculate that burnt rice, after burning rice and falling conventional wheat, nearly 53% area followed that. Then after non-burning rice, instead of wheat, they planted some other crop that was only 8%. After non-burning rice, doing conventional wheat, it means not conservation tillage in wheat sowing, 9% area. And after non-burning rice, nearly 24% area followed happy seeder sowing. And nearly 5%, 4.73% followed a super seeder sowing. And this year, actually, we applied this to 21-22 to Punjab to map out, and we were able to do this happy seeder sowing with very high accuracy. So that validated our methodology. But of course, super seeder we could not do. In the super seeder, we didn't get much accuracy. So we are trying to mature the technology where we can map this conservation tillage or conservation tillage sowing in wheat after paddy. So that is what another area of research we have been doing. So overall, what the challenge is in monitoring, doing this kind of work with satellite remote sensing is that there are smaller field, shorter time, which many times leads to missing and underestimating the fire incidents. Similarly, crowd also prevents the fire detection. Many times because the fire location, when fire department officials try to go and locate, they are not, because we cannot exactly provide the location. We provide the centroid of the pixel, and pixel is something like 400 by 400 meter. So whatever location we provide, that may not be exact location where on the field you will find. It may be 100, 200 meter on any of the site. But the government officials, line department officials, they complain that wherever you are telling, many times we don't find that. So within agricultural area, the fires detected false fires as brick lane, solar park, chimneys. These we anyway take care, and confidence and uncertainty of algorithm to detect the fire event. That also actually vary with time. Now the problem is when you are doing wheat residue burning, you remember it is April and May. In April and May, many a time the ground itself is very, very heated. So the confidence interval during wheat versus confidence interval during paddy harvesting season, they are very different. So we have developed those. What are those things? Many times farmers are synchronizing burning with satellite over time pass, or suddenly the moment they burn the field, they irrigate it so that it cannot be detected from the satellites. So that is another challenge we are facing. For area estimation, we have developed the robust methodology to differentiate standing rice crop, harvested rice crop, burnt rice crop. But that is a thing which is mature enough. And we are trying to develop the emission factors and improving the emission factors to calculate the pollutants and greenhouse gases. And if we are able to, with great confidence, measure the conservation tillage in wheat, then even we can promote regenerative agricultural practices. If state government or central government start a scheme, and what we call it nowadays carbon credit. So if a farmer, he does not burn the paddy residue and then sowing the wheat by conservation tillage, is actually adding a lot of carbon to the soil. And we can actually, using this methodology to map out which are the areas, how many years he has been doing, we can actually use some calculations to calculate the carbons which he has added. Do some modeling is needed, it is just a thought. And those carbon credits can be actually monetized. We can incentivize farmer that if you follow this per hectare or per acre, you will get this much of money after 3 years or 4 years. Okay, thank you all for your patient hearing. This is all which I wanted to say in this presentation. If you have any questions, we can address to them.
Some questions are there in chat box and QA.
Okay. Let me look at them.
QA, there is only one. Others are comments.
So can you, I'm not able to see my own.
Okay, I will read it out. First QA.
Now I'm able to.
Okay.
Now I'm able to see.
Okay.
First is very informative lecture. I don't know. It may be for the previous speaker. Then it says that also the Pusa decomposer. I don't know in what context.
I think there is one chat also on the same.
Okay, that also I'll see. And then one presentation by Dr. Ganga Devi. Then, sir, what about the validity of number of events happened and how the validity can we do? Yeah, this is an important question. I told you, we share these locations with the state governments, and state governments actually go and monitor in the field. So when we do it with using VIRS, the accuracy of better than 90%. But from MODIS, because it is a 1 kilometer pixel, so I feel the confidence is great, but they are not able to get to that location. And many times they confuse what is happening. Suppose within 400 by 400 meter, 4 fires are happening. Satellite only detect them as 1. 4 fields are burning. So that issue is there, but you can always say that whenever satellite is detecting a fire, because we already take care of the uncertainty or the confidence. So actual fire is there, something has happened there. And because we also apply the mask of the agricultural area, that is also having high confidence. So it is an agricultural residue fire. So the confidence is very high. State government officials, I don't have put in the presentation, but I can show you in UP, Delhi, they record that how much our CREAMS lab has reported fires, how many have been able to record in the field. Out of that, how many were of paddy, how many were of non-paddy, and how many were of non-agriculture. So it varies, but it shows that nearly better than 85–90% fires get detected, which we say they find on the ground. So this is my answer to that question. Let me come to the chat box. I don't know where from. Yes, it is interesting. Yeah. Can we use this principle in detection of groundwater analysis, sir? Groundwater analysis we cannot do from thermal remote sensing because groundwater is not on the surface, it is present below. But there is another technology which provides a broader estimate of how much is the change in groundwater over time. So this is called gravity anomaly analysis. So there is a satellite from US, it is called GRACE, and that actually look at how much was like over 3-year periods. If we are extracting a lot of groundwater, the gravity anomaly changes, the anomaly in gravity. So because a lot amount of water has been extracted and it has not been refilled. So the change in groundwater, we are able to, we can easily detect in groundwater, but at a regional scale. I don't say at a very smaller scale. It is at a very recently paper has come from one of my ISRO colleagues, Dr. Prakash Chauhan, very recently in Scientific Reports. What they have done, they have said that they have compared the burning events since 2010 to current, like what we do. And they also use GRACE satellite data to monitor the groundwater. What has happened since 2010 to now, and they show that before 2000, because you know that in Haryana and Punjab, there is a law which prevents that before 10th of June, you cannot go for transplanting of paddy. Earlier, the farmers were doing paddy transplanting even in May. And that was to prevent the extraction of groundwater because that is the time when the weather is very hot and a lot of evaporative demand is there and water is lost. So what they had shown that because initially that shifting, that law which brought that you cannot plant the paddy during early in the season, May, it prevented the decrease in extraction of groundwater, and that too also they detected from satellite. But it increased this problem of residue burning because now the crop is planted a bit late, so you don't have time. And then they showed that that advantage which for initial few years you got in preventing the extraction of groundwater, that has again lost. Even after later year, residue burning is happening as well as groundwater is getting extracted at a very greater scale. So this very recently, the paper has come in recent issue of Scientific Reports, is a Nature series of paper. You can look at that paper if somebody is interested. So this is where I thought I'll show a link between groundwater and residue burning. There is another paper from CGI Center which also did similar kind of analysis, but not from satellites, where this bringing a law for not allowing transplanting of paddy early in the season to what is happening to the increase in residue burning. So they showed that this law is responsible to some extent for increase in residue burning of paddy. So yes, sir, it is very interesting. This is a burning issue, sir. Information linked is hectare wise. Which information is hectare wise that I wanted to know? Arvind, can you tell? Can you? Some Arvind has put in this question, sir. Information linked in hectare wise. I didn't get what you exactly wanted to know. The paddy area which we estimate or the burnt area, that is in hectares only. Yeah, there is one message. Okay, sir, can we use this in replicated data? Rajni, can you make me understand what this question really is? Can we use this in replicated data? What does it mean, replicated data? This is not a agricultural experiment we are doing.
Maybe they wanted to say, can we use this data? Can we replicate this data? So this is what I feel. Can we use this data for our purpose?
Yeah, this data is available free over
Public domain, yes.
Yeah, it is available if it is this in replicated data. And if you do same kind of satellite data analysis, follow a methodology, you will get the same results, exactly same results. So there is application. It is Sir Kirti Mani is telling, sir, it is most prominent happening in Punjab, Haryana and UP, especially in west areas of Muzaffarnagar or Baghpat and Saharanpur. Still so many KVKs are given this project, including ours, that Bulandshahr, and so much fund is released in this where really few are practicing this. So don't you think that there is some lacuna while deciding the areas where the program should be implemented? Actually, I gave you example that the information asked by us by the Punjab was, which are the villages? So village level information we were able to provide. We actually provided the name of the village and all that, how much area they have of rice and how much burnt they have. Of course, UP didn't ask from us. So I don't know about UP. But as a scientist, we can provide that kind of information, and a better targeting of schemes can be done with this kind of data. Now we have data over 3-4 years. We can do a much better analysis, even for UP. With so much of difficulty, found 2 villages having big land holding, and there also the burning practice is really low. Still, we are conducting lots and lot of program throughout the year. So that is because you want to do it easy way. You may change that. Everybody, it is difficult to take challenges and solve those challenges. Sab naukri kar rahe hain, to theek hai. Sir, in one slide, you mentioned that in Haryana compared to Punjab this year burning increased. What are the possible reasons for the same? Dr. Maina, I don't know what are the reasons. One is, of course, 20 and 21 were the years when there was a lot of farmer protest. So we assume that there is a political angle to that also.
Yes.
So there may be a protest burning, but because till 2019 there was consistent decrease, and from 2016 to 19 there was 50% reduction. But 20 and 21 it may be again protest burning, or another thing is there, the laws were also lax. Earlier, there were laws which were put in place. The farmers used to avoid burning, or the police and state officials used to go, they put the fines, put the court cases. But during these 2 years of farmer protest, I think the laws also became lax and farmers were more emboldened. Thank you, sir. Good information. Thank you. Biodecomposer is not effective. Why? Yeah, biodecomposer is not so effective. Why? Biodecomposer is effective. It is not that it is not effective, but still, the farmers want everything to be able, they should able to dispose of within maximum 5 to 7 days. So biodecomposer is again a biological thing. It takes time. And a lot, it depends on 2-3 things. One is it depends a lot on temperatures in the region, because the decomposition activity by the microbes and enzymatic activity, this is the function of temperature. If temperatures are low, the activity reduces. Another thing is that there is a cost to spraying on that and turning off the biomass. So that is to be also included, and many times farmers may not be finding that lucrative to spend that much amount of money. But hopefully many research groups are working on improving its efficacy, and we may be able to get a better products in that. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much for informative session. Okay, I think I have addressed to all.
Yes.
Most of them.
All questions are addressed, and yeah, it was really very nice session from my point of view. So participants have already told you about their point of view. In fact, you have brought the flavor of economics into your lecture to suit the lecture to the economist and other social scientists present here.
Yeah, luckily I have been, whatever research I have been doing, it is actually going into policy implementation for actual programs, whether it is drought, it is crop monitoring, residue burn. So their economics comes into play.
Yes. So that's why, like, it was very relevant lecture for even this kind of participants, and I'm sure this will increase the use of remote sensing for social science more, that too among researchers. Right now, as far as our knowledge goes, remote sensing images are not much used by these social scientists.
Yes.
So it seems it will increase it further, and we are looking forward for another interesting session on yield forecasting using remote sensing images, like using simulation. So I think that will also, because yield forecasting is also very near to these economists. They use it for further analysis and further policy research and other things. So that is also going to be quite interesting. So with that, we thank you very much for continuously talking and showing, like you were saying that you will end it up early, but you could like continue to talk for 2 hours. So this is a really very informative session and very useful also. So thank you very much, Dr. Sehgal.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rajni, for the invitation.
Dr. Rajni.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar, Subhash ji.
Sir, really it is a very inspiring and very informative presentation. I think hope our participants might be benefiting, and we also benefited, in fact. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sir.
So
ये बात अलग है कि रजनी जी हमको सेमिनार में नहीं बुलाती.
सेमिनार में नहीं बुलाती.
हाँ, आप स्पेशल इंफॉर्मेशन सोसाइटी कौन सी है, उसके सेमिनार में ऐसे ऐसे लोगों को रखते हैं जिनको मैं सुनना नहीं चाहता, जिन्होंने हमारे सामने मतलब कहीं स्टैंड नहीं करते.
यस,
है ना. तो आप आईसीआर से छोड़ के जो इसरो वाले लोग भी है, मैं आपको बता देता हूँ. आप हो. ओवी रेड्डी को तो मैंने लिख दिया था, वो बोले यू प्लीज ज्वाइन एंड अटेंड. आई सेड आई हैव from none of these presentations I have any learning to happen, so I don't want to waste.
Yes, that's right. So we will
take care in future.
Yes, we will take care of. We will take care of that. So, Thank you very much again. So now, like we are closing to